Thursday, July the 17th, and we are looking at the XRP chart. And as mentioned over the last couple of days, we've gotten the breakout that we wanted above $3. And I'm on the 4-hour chart right now. Let's go ahead and zoom out to the weekly chart. And I'm going to go ahead and remove this. We don't need that right now. But yeah, so far with about 3 days and 12 hours left in the weekly, we're looking good on the MEXC exchange. Let's go to another one. Let's go to Bitstamp just to see where we're at. Yeah, similar volume. What I would be looking for by the end of this weekly close here on this candle is for us to have more volume than this weekly, than the previous week. Obviously, one can assume that we're going to reach that because we're just a little bit over halfway through the week. And we're already more than 70% of the volume of last week. So that's looking good. As we come back to the MEXC chart, because that's where I'm trading, let's come down to the daily. Of course, we have a very strong move that's being backed up with all the moving averages currently. So you have your 50, 100, and 200 that are all supporting this move. Again, keep in mind that on an intraday, we can have quite a bit of volatility. 5 to 15% is not unheard of, maybe even as much as 20. But if you remember, what we're going to be looking for over the next several days, even the next few weeks, is we're going to be looking for at least a 20% candle to the downside on one 4-hour candle. So that's something that you'll want to watch. That'll be a very strong sign of a larger take profit by some of our whales. So just keep that in mind. Don't panic on that 20% down candle within that 4 hours, because we should have a bounce back and you should be able to get a decent exit. And I'll be here walking with you through that. I wanted to show you as well that we are clearly in the midst of alt season. The Bitcoin dominance chart continues to collapse. Of course, we had a death cross up here on that with the 50 over the 200. And now we're just collapsing into the ground. Probably Bitcoin dominance is going to come down to around, probably the first area of support will be here in the 59.60 area. Probably have a short-term support there. Then we'll come down to 56. What we're going to want to see is once we get to 56, where are we at in the overall market? Where is the Bitcoin price? Where are some of the major altcoins, Ethereum, XRP, Stellar? What are some of those prices looking like? We're keeping an eye on the Bitcoin dominance here on the daily. And of course, so far it's looking like we're going to get our alt season here. So fingers crossed. As we come back to the XRP chart, we're in the midst of this new move, coming down to, let's go the 4-hour. Again, we're supporting everything on the 4-hour. What I love here over the last several hours is that 4-hour volume candle there that just closed, the one that went from 3 a.m. to 7 a.m. before the daily, before the 12-hour and the 6-hour closed. So yeah, strong volume there. So we're in the process of making a new all-time high probably today. If not today, certainly by the end of the week. And that's probably going to all align with some of the news, the quote news coming out fundamentally with the crypto regulation. So we're probably putting in a candle like that, probably somewhere in here. I am looking for a midterm top around $5.25. Then we should consolidate sideways for a few days before our next leg up. As we come down to the hourly, I think on the hourly, the key thing you're going to want to keep an eye on is to make sure that on the hourly, we're holding the 50 EMA, which is this purple line. It might be a different color on your chart, but if you get a multiple EMA indicator and just put it on there, then just look at the 50, 100, and 200. So on the hourly, the 50 continues to hold as support. If you come back to the November 2024 breakout, you will notice that on the hourly chart, we pretty much respected that 50 EMA all the way up. Now, on the sideways accumulation, we might have flirted with a few hourly closes below it, but that 50 EMA should really hold us in this parabola. So that's something to keep an eye on and put on your chart. There were some other things I was going to talk about, but of course, all of a sudden it's leaving me. one thing I wanted to talk about, and I know that there's a lot of disagreement on this between log scale chart and a linear scale chart. So let me just come out to the daily and show you what I'm talking about. Currently, I have on my chart the logarithmic view of price action. But if I was to unclick this and turn this off, now I have what they call a linear chart. If you just go to ChatGPT and ask what is the best style of charts to use with crypto, it's going to recommend logarithmic charts. And part of the reason for that is because the percentage of gains within crypto is so much greater, especially over the long term, than in traditional assets, that logarithmic scale really gives you a better insight and gives you a better forecasting method. And I can prove that. Let's go back to the logarithmic scale and let's come into, let's say, the 4 hour, and let's come back here to the breakout for November. And what you do is with log, you always take the most recent pivot high down to the pivot low, and with a Fibonacci extension to start to get an idea of where the bots are going to most likely be finding pivots, will be the 1272. And then, historically 2618, but here in the last several years, XRP has had more aggressive moves to the upside. So 2886, 3618, very, very traditional. And then 4618 to 5236 or 5618. I actually had this set earlier as 5618 because I was looking at something else, so I had adjusted it. So yeah, these are all classical fib retrace and extension levels. And you can see that if you're to pull the pivots right with a log scale fib tool, you get the pivots 1, 2, 3. And then, yeah, we had the up thrust after distribution, back above this 5618. But then, of course, we came down. So that's what I'm looking at again over here. I pulled the recent high from May down to the low in June. And, oh, look, lo and behold, on a log scale chart, the 1272 got wicked and we came down. And that's why we were watching that. So log scale charts really are the best way to approach, I believe, crypto trading. You can have your disagreements, but I guess what I would ask is you just show me the accuracy of the linear scale charts versus log scale, because there's a log scale chart right there that shows you clearly where the bots are trading. And so that's the key. The reason we use these tools, sorry for the dogs barking, the reason for the tools is so that we can just get an idea. No one's going to be perfect with even 12 tools or 20 tools. You're not going to be perfect with trading, but it's yet another tool in your tool belt to try to give you an insight into where price is going. So that's why I use log scale charts. I can give you one more example. Probably with Bitcoin would be the better one, just because we have more price action history and it's had a consistently, I'm going to have to go to another chart for that. If you go to charts.cointrader.pro, and for sake of time right now, I'm just not going to do that. But you can turn on log on a Bitcoin chart over there and use log scale based fibs, and you're going to see where Bitcoin loves to hit with each of its bull cycle market expansions. Almost to the pip, it will hit log scale based fib levels. So you can do whatever you want. I'm going to continue to use log scale because that's what's made me money over the last 7 to 8 years. And I think I know how to use those. So yeah, that's where we're at on XRP. I'll make some other videos about other different coins. I know I had someone ask me about Velo. It's looking great. We just need to clear around that 0.42 cent level. Flare is looking good. Stronghold's looking good. XDC is looking good. Stellar. Fartcoin, of course. I called that 2 or 3 days ago, and if you followed me on that trade, you are up. And then HBAR, and of course Ethereum. So Ethereum might be breaking its old high here around 4,200, and we might be well on our way to $7,500 to $10,000. So anyway, everybody have a good day. I will keep you posted as to what's going on in the markets. It's really, at this point, it's just sitting on your hands and waiting. We'll be interested to see where we're at the end of July and then also at the end of August. I do have a couple of tweets out there, and I stand by those tweets. of where we will most likely be in the next 20 to 50 days. All right, have a good one.